Peace, family, peace, peace, peace. It's your brother Marc Lamont Hill. I'm here. I'm on the road, as you can see. That's why things look a little dark and things seem a little, things are moving around a little bit. Is because I'm here on the road. Martin Luther King holiday. I'm here giving speeches and trying to spread the true message, the true radical message of Martin Luther King Jr. But while I'm here, stuck in an airport, I said, let me take this as an opportunity to comment and to help us think through what's going on in Iowa. For those that don't know, and you should know at this point, Donald Trump won the Iowa caucus. Now, Donald Trump winning the Iowa caucus isn't that big of a deal on its own, right? Donald Trump is a former president. He's a standard bearer for the party. He's the leader of the party, and he remains wildly popular with the party. So there shouldn't be a surprise that Donald Trump wins the primary. But throughout history, Donald Trump winning the primary would mean 12%, 13%, 10%, 7%. I mean, I don't know of any candidate in modern history who has won the Iowa primary with more than 12 and a half, 13%. So when we look at Donald Trump's numbers here, it's not just that Donald Trump won the primary. Again, that is what it is, right? It's that Donald Trump won the primary with these numbers. Look at these numbers. Look at these numbers. Donald Trump won the primary by more than 30%. Right now, we're looking at more than 95% of the votes. And Donald Trump, 55,000 of them. 55,726 votes. The next closest challenger is Ron DeSantis with only 23,000. Nikki Haley was sort of surging, and there's some areas here, particularly like Davenport and places like that, or Johnson County, Davenport, um, where Nikki Haley rivaled Donald Trump and actually got more votes. So, there's a few, that last 6% could be all Nikki Haley. That last 3% simply could be all Nikki Haley. She could come in second. Doesn't look like it. Looks like Nikki Haley's going to be uh, in third place, um, and that says a lot. That says a lot. The Republican primary was supposed to be hotly contested, and the reason was even though you had the equivalent of an incumbent to the extent that Donald Republicans voted for Donald Trump, he won the presidency. They voted for him an overwhelming number when he lost to Biden, um, but they still won him. So he had a sizable advantage. Uh, there were also voices that said, "Look, the reason we lost the 2020 election was because people wanted Republican values, but they didn't want Donald Trump." They said they wanted Donald Trump's politics, but they didn't want Donald Trump's drama. They said, "Well, Donald Trump is now facing civil charges. There's criminal allegations. There's all this stuff. He's being taken off the ballot because of that pesky insurrection." And so if Donald Trump is that vulnerable, all you need is a Donald Trump light or a Donald Trump alternative. And they said, well, the Donald Trump alternative is Ron DeSantis. He's an executive. Look, I said it. I said Ron DeSantis is dangerous. Governor of Florida. The governor of Florida. As goes Florida, goes the country in many ways lately. He launched a series of public policy initiatives that were rooted in Florida, but were really national initiatives. Um, the book bans, the Don't Say Gay bill, all the anti-immigrant stuff. I mean, he set himself up for a powerful run. The voters didn't agree. The voters did not agree. The voters decided that Ron DeSantis wasn't their cup of tea, that if they could choose between Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump, they'll take Donald Trump. Now, a lot of that has to do with Donald Trump's charisma, and also many of Donald Trump's voting base, they don't want to feel like they've had their rights taken, their liberty taken. They want to own the libs. And voting for Ron DeSantis would be a concession that Donald Trump failed somewhere. It would be an acknowledgement that the courts might be victorious. It would be an idea that the liberal media may have undermined Trump. So a lot of this is resistance to what they see as uh, a setup against Donald Trump. So they're going to keep voting him for him. Some of it also is, quite frankly, Ron DeSantis ran a very tepid campaign. He has no personality. Once you get past the policy and you have to actually meet the man, you realize Ron DeSantis isn't very interesting. And so Ron DeSantis couldn't pull this off. But there was hope that, well, when you get to the actual votes, they have a shot. Well, the votes came and they're very clear. They're very clear. Donald Trump won handily. Now, this return is even more devastating for Nikki Haley. It's even more devastating for Nikki Haley. This is where Nikki Haley was supposed to show up. Nikki Haley was supposed to be the darling of serious conservatives, not the crazy MAGA Republican. She was supposed to be the one that people loved. She's the one that educated Republicans were supposed to choose. She was the one that the super traditional right-wing Republicans were supposed to choose. Why? Well, because Donald Trump represents their politics, but he doesn't actually represent their values. He doesn't embody their values. Now, they're pragmatic. They'll take him if they have to. They'll take him if they have to. But again, they say we can make our own choices. Nikki Haley could be our choice, but as long as Trump is on the ballot, he's who we want. And so while Nikki Haley had a lot of dark horse hopes, right? I'm going to pull up this. I want to pull up this. The educated voter demographic, because when you disaggregate the data, you see she not only lost, but she lost badly even among educated conservatives. And if you can't win um, if you can't win with educated conservatives and you're Nikki Haley and that's your base, you don't have a shot. You don't have a shot in hell. Um, and that's the problem. Now, there is a really strong and interesting argument here, an important argument, that Iowa does not represent any place but Iowa, right? It's extra white, it's extra evangelical, it's extra conservative, and that there are voting bases and voting blocks in other places like New Hampshire that are very different. That's true, but this Iowa didn't play to Trump's strengths. If Trump was able to win Iowa by a 30% rate, when Nikki Haley was supposed to thrive and at least get a strong second place finish in Iowa because of the educated conservatives, because of the true conservatives, then he ain't got nothing to worry about in New Hampshire. He's not going to win South Carolina because that's Nikki's area, it's Nikki's state, but Las Vegas, When you get to Super Tuesday, um, I think the election's over. It's sad, but it's over. What we thought could be a dogfight until the end probably is a first round knockout. Republicans want Donald Trump. Tens of millions of Americans want Donald Trump to be their president. As disturbing a thought as that is, even after 2020, even after he lost, even after the insurrection, even after the refusal to accept that he lost the election, even after all of the BS we've seen in the last 3 years, 4 years almost, they still want Donald Trump to be president. So there's a strong message here. The strong message to voters is get on board, get down or lay down, because you ain't got no other option if you're a Republican voter. As you know, or maybe you don't know, uh, Vivek Ramaswamy bowed out of the race. Perhaps the most interesting thing from tonight, other than the actual outcome, which again was um, not particularly shocking, is the fact that Vivek Ramaswamy bowed out. Why is this interesting? Well, it's interesting for a couple of reasons, but perhaps the most interesting reason is people are already aligning themselves. People are already setting themselves up for vice presidential spots. The day before Iowa, or a week before Iowa, Trump took jabs at Nikki Haley, questioning whether she was an American citizen or not. That probably means she ain't gonna be the VP. She didn't clap back hard because they're all scared of him. And she didn't want to out her whiteness. She didn't want to, I mean, her non-whiteness. She didn't want to draw attention to the fact that she actually is Nimarata, right? So instead, she laid low. Ramaswamy has basically kissed Trump's butt every step of the way. He's the greatest president we've seen. He's the best. He's the best. He's the best. He's the best. It's just time for a new direction. Well, Trump got tired of that. That whole save Trump, elect Vivek campaign, it did not work out well for him. He came after him yesterday, basically called him a fraud. Now, Vivek has wanted, it's been very clear that Ramaswamy has wanted to be the vice president. He knows he wasn't going to win this race. He knows he wasn't going to be super competitive. I think 2 hours ago, he had like 175 votes in the Iowa caucus. I don't know where he finished, but in terms of final numbers, but it was absolutely like 1%. Um, Wanda MV says none of the Brown candidates will be the VP. Well, Nikki Haley will be an excellent choice, but I think you're right. I don't think that's going to be the choice. Um, Ramaswamy brings energy and a kind of loyalty, but I don't think he'll be the choice. I think I think Ben Carson might be your choice. I think Ben Carson might be your choice. Let me know what y'all think. Hit the like button, but drop a comment on who y'all think the VP choice is going to be. Drop it right in the comments. Who do you think the VP choice is going to be? Also, hit the like button if you're feeling what I'm talking about right now. I think it might be Ben Carson. I'll tell you why, and I'll do a whole other conversation. We'll do a deep dive on this later, but anybody who runs against Trump, he's not crazy about. And look, Ben ran against him last time, but Ben got out soon, and Ben didn't absorb many of the biggest insults. I think the biggest thing against Ben Carson was that he was low energy, which he kind of is. Um, so Ben Carson sets Trump up to have a black VP, to have somebody who's not going to take the spotlight or the shine, somebody who will bring some black votes, somebody who now has some experience, right? As former HUD secretary, or was it HUD? Yeah. Um, so I think Trump is all set here. I think his opponents now know run, run for cover. Don't tick Trump off. This the monster is still well fed, strong, and he's still coming out from the hills to stomp on everybody. So do not mess with Donald Trump. I think all the Republicans are going to move out of the way now. And I think the voting base now, more broadly, recognizes that at this point we're just waiting for November. It's Trump Biden. It is going to be Trump versus Biden. And it's an ugly matchup. I'm looking at comments from people like Oren who say, I'll fool with you, MLH. Answer this. How is Biden, the Zionist in chief, any less dangerous to democracy? It's an interesting question. Um, and yes, the one and only I am taking questions. This is a real live. FYI, it's a real live, I promise you. Um, Trump is more dangerous to democracy because he is actively and actually undermining the institutions of democracy. That is different than Biden, who was undermining his promises. He's undermining um, the mission of his party and what progressives say they're about. Biden is dangerous. You could look at what's happening right now in Gaza and see Biden is dangerous. You can see what's happening in Yemen and say Biden is dangerous. You can see what's happening in Haiti and say Biden is dangerous. But those things are sadly part and parcel of American democracy. In other words, I'm not caping for Biden. All the criticisms of Biden are legitimate. No argument against that. Both are very dangerous. But Biden's presence doesn't undermine the American democratic structure. It reinforces it, right? When Biden came, they said, "Oh my God, democracy's back. America regains its standing in the world." Right? Biden, in many ways, allows us to normalize the American structure. Trump definitely undermines it. Trump doesn't necessarily really believe in democracy. He kind of said, he's going to be a dictator when he gets elected. That's what he said. I'm going to be a dictator when I get elected. Trump doesn't necessarily mind a good coup every once in a while. A good insurrection doesn't bother him. That undermines democracy. Trump doesn't believe that elections have consequences. He doesn't accept the loss of an election. That undermines democracy. So I don't think it's hyperbolic to say that Trump is far more dangerous for democracy than Joe Biden. But I think we also can't accept this narrative that Joe Biden is an extraordinary option. He's a terrible option. This is why I strongly advocated for a Democratic primary challenge to Joe Biden. This is why I advocated even for people like Cornel West, who I love. If you're going to come after him as a Democrat. The Gavin Newsoms of the world. Don't wait. The Robert Kennedys of the world, who I do not support, but I'm just saying, do a primary challenge. What we're seeing now is nothing but a waiting game. At the end of the day, Joe Biden or Donald Trump is going to be president in 12 months. We'll be swearing in one of those two people in 12 months. And looking at the economy, looking at approval ratings, looking at the disillusionment of the left, looking at the disillusionment of young voters, looking at the disillusionment, disappointment of Arab voters, brown voters, Muslim voters, there are a lot of people who are going to stay home. And if people stay home, Trump will win by the margin of voters who are disaffected. And that does nothing for our country or for our people, the most vulnerable in our country. So all of that to say, Donald Trump winning this primary is more than just him winning the Iowa caucus, which is a small thing. It's just a caucus. It's not even really an election. It means that Donald Trump and Joe Biden are most certainly going to be the nominees, and that Democratic voters, if they want to win, or better yet, any voter, any citizen that wants to defeat Donald Trump needs to organize now, because Donald Trump is going to come back out strong. He's going to come out with a strong team. He's going to come out with Donald Trump's going to come out with a strong team, a strong game plan, and a lot of energy from his base. And we saw that tonight again. These people show up. These people show out. So at a moment where Joe Biden isn't that popular, and where people who legitimately believe in the possibility of Democrats, they still are like, yo, Joe Biden let us down. People who are skeptical but just hated Trump are like, yeah, the gas is too high, the groceries are too high, our schools aren't safe. You're screwing up the Middle East. I mean, there are a lot of people who legitimately had some faith or were just being pragmatic who say this doesn't work. So tonight was a huge first step for Donald Trump being president again. And I know y'all don't want to believe it. I know some of y'all are afraid of it. I know some of y'all deny it. But I promise you, if things stay on the same course, Donald Trump is the next president. Donald Trump is the next president. 45 will be 47. The only question is who he's bringing on the ride with him. Anyway, family, that's my piece. Let's keep watching these poll results to see if Nikki can sneak into second place, but it looks like it's pretty cemented. In the meantime, hit the like button if you feel what I'm talking about. Hit the subscribe button and that little bell next to the subscribe button so you can get updates on what I talk about every single day so you don't have to guess. Also, hit the join button if you're so inclined so you can become part of the MLH channel and help us build this platform. And of course, we always love if you make a direct donation to the Cash App. It allows us to build the platform. It allows us to produce content. It allows us to hire folk. It allows us to build new voices onto the podcast. People like Mumia Abu Jamal. If every single person watching right now just drops $1, just $1 in the Cash App, it makes a huge difference. Not $2, not $5, just $1. You can always do more, but just $1. If everybody does that, we up. So anyway, I appreciate y'all. I want to thank y'all for being part of the channel, and I will see y'all later. Peace.